Welcome to the Illegal Podcast. We're here. It is episode 19. It's happening. We are sorry for last week. We missed you, but we're here with an exciting topic. We're getting into the simulated reality that we most definitely agree that we live in. No ifs, ands, or buts. Solid 100% agreeance.
Wrong.
Stay tuned for this episode of Illegal Podcast.
Okay. No.
We've reached a final conclusion on the podcast. Illegal!
Thanks for keeping it popping. Sorry for keeping you waiting. We're going to jump into it.
We're not sorry.
I am. I actually forgot we skipped a week, and I was upset on Friday when our episode didn't come out, and I was looking for it, and I was like, "What, Ryan, you piece of shit, didn't get the editing done?" And then I was just like, "Oh, that's right, we didn't do it.
Just record myself.
So yeah, I was kind of bummed out, but here we are, in the flesh,
19.
Back again.
or are we? Because today we're going to be talking about whether or not we're all living in a simulation, what that could mean. And, I mean, look at Ray's brow. Clearly simulated.
Is that even a real brow?
I don't know,
Oh,
man.
just because of that pun. Ugh. That's disgusting.
Oh, my God. So, it was back in, I already forgot what year it was, 2012, 2015. A gentleman, already forgot his name. Nick Borstrom, I think it was, something along those lines.
Perfect, yeah.
Wrote a paper about us living in a simulation and why he thought that, and scientists are pretty much leaping all over it, trying to poke holes in it, and it's pretty tough.
Well, it probably would have been better received had the infographics in his paper not been done by Sarah Chosdosh.
Yeah, he struggled.
Struggle bus. Struggle dosh.
God.
Damn.
No, so pretty much the idea is computer technology as a whole, and the ability to render graphics and create artificial intelligence inside different games and inside different programs is eventually going to get to the level where we as humans can then program an entire universe inside of a computer, and then it essentially would live its own thing, and every entity in that computer would essentially have free will. They would have the option to do whatever they wanted to do, but they would be forced to live by your set of rules that you created for them. And that's kind of, in a nutshell, what simulation, or whatever it's called, simulation theory or something like that. It's actually got a name to it. But
And I think that it's just the reality is that way.
Yep. Pretty
Currently.
much a lot of scientists have taken this on, including some pretty big names. There's a lot of big names in the field, but one of them that's we've heard talk about it quite a bit of times is going to be Neil deGrasse Tyson,
Musk.
Elon Musk, the gentleman's name that's the professor of the physicist at Harvard. Words are hard today, but we'll get over that pretty quick. They all got onto this panel, which is one of the videos that I watched preparing for the topic. There's a yearly debate. I mean, they use the word debate pretty loosely. It's more or less just a kind of a conversation with 5 brilliant minds having this conversation about living in this virtual world, or the possibility of it anyways.
Yeah.
One of the big things that I heard in this was any proof that we would ever get that we are living in a simulation is instantly null and void, because that proof itself would be simulated. And then there's no definitive way, because if there is a creator or a player or whatever you want to call the entity that is creating this game that we are in,
The Dungeon Master.
could have just easily changed the rules of the game and
sure.
put this proof in there. And
Yeah.
there's
Really, it's kind of... Everything boils down to numbers, right? Like, absolutely everything can be broken down into numbers somehow.
Mathematics, yeah.
Yeah, to mathematics. Just with 9 I mean, only 9 numbers. You can create every number in existence and every number that doesn't exist. Just 9 numbers.
Yeah.
You know,
That's true.
And
Sounds
that
accurate.
Well,
is the underlayment
how do
of
you
everything.
create something that doesn't exist?
Just create it. That's the whole point, right? That's what creating is. Making something real that doesn't already exist.
But once you create it, then it would exist.
Yeah. There are numbers that people haven't created yet, I'm sure. Just takes too long to count that high. My buddy came up with a new number called after a billion and trillion comes a Nathan Fillion, and it's a one with 420 zeros or 630 zeros, I think he said, and he just invented that. So now there's Nathan Fillion out there, and it's real. Didn't exist before, other than
Now it's real.
yep, or Googleplex or shit like that. People just keep making shit up.
Like the Googleplex.
Like science.
So, just
People
a
keep
little
making
thing
that shit
from just to pop a little Scientific American in here. Just a quick snippet.
Snippet.
Furthermore, ideas from information theory keep showing up in physics. In my research, I found this very strange, said James Gates. Terrible name. You can't have a double plural. James Gates. Don't you mean Jim? Fired.
John Johns.
John Johnson. He's a theoretical physicist at the University of Maryland. He says, I was driven to error correcting codes. They're what make browsers work. So why were they in the equations? I was studying about quarks and electrons and supersymmetry. This brought me to the stark realization that I could no longer say people like Max are crazy, which, you know, is he's a big proponent of, you know, we are living in a simulation. So when people try to like poke holes and like figure it out, or just all of a sudden like something happens and you're just like, oh shit, start looking at your hand like, the fuck?
Well, the fractal design of the universe itself is just kind of interesting in that way, right? Like,
that's super interesting.
like just even you can just demonstrate it to yourself by what you know about science right now, and then just going to literally Google Earth and zooming all the way out as far as it'll let you, and then just like scrolling in just a little bit at a time and looking at everything.
There's
Just
fractals all along the coastlines
and
everywhere.
the whole, even like human civilization is built in that way, you know, and it's coming out of our own minds, and we're inventing this shit, but it just seems to all be, you know, matching for some reason.
And also, it was, I'm pretty sure it was in the
Yeah, that
the discussion
that phrase was actually in that as well.
that he was talking about, and they were talking about they were talking about a lot of stuff, and Neil deGrasse Tyson like couldn't move on to the next topic because he was just like so flabbergasted at what the guy said. And I'm sure I'll butcher it. I don't have it pulled up right now, but he said something along the lines of at the core of the equations that we use to understand this world, they found computer code. And it was the computer code that was literally like invented in, I think, the 1800s. It was binary, ones and zeros, at the core of the equations that we use to understand this world and its physics and, you know, every aspect of it. And he's just like, with everything we know is ones and zeros. What do we know that uses ones and zeros? A computer. So we have to be living in a simulation. And then they were like, and then Neil deGrasse Tyson was just like, hold on, we gotta go back. Are you telling me that at the core of everything we understand about this universe is computer code? And you're just like, yeah, that's right. And that's just very strange, especially when you start like taking into the fact like fractals are everywhere. Fractals are mathematical equations.
But is it? I really think it's not that crazy though. It's like it's really the other way around, since that existed first, and then we were invented off that basis. We just happen to also invent computers that work off the same basis, because it's the basis of our fundamental reality, whether we understand it or not. That's what comes out of our brains. So we're gonna make a simulation of that, because that's what reality is. I mean, that's what we're programmed to do, right?
Well, maybe, but in the instance of binary code being invented,
well, it wasn't invented more than discovered, really.
I want to say
You
like
know, it's
earlier.
like saying electricity was invented.
earlier civilizations probably just stumbled upon the same thing, like, and then they probably got wiped out by a major disaster. Maybe they hit that same peak of technology where we're doing simulations and computers, and then just the flood or whatever solar array wiped them out, and then we're just discovering it.
Or they wiped themselves out. Maybe their technology was so good that they just got to the point of a massive world war that was so devastating that they ended life and it had to recreate again.
Binary code was invented in 1689.
That's quite a while ago.
Let that fucking sink in. 1689.
Like it was
During
long.
like the Renaissance and stuff. Like the
Just think of how
Renaissance period.
crazy that is. Like we just saw Elon Musk talking about how we had Pong 40 years ago.
Yeah, but you've also seen like the Antikythera mechanism, right?
No,
You've never seen that?
I don't think so.
Oh man, pull that shit up. Look at it. Like just type it in real quick.
I don't even know how to spell that.
You don't have to just get close. You'll find it. But
Just type in mechanism and then A, and it'll be the first word.
The binary will help you.
Basically, this thing ended up being like an astrological. Supposedly, is claimed to be like this astrological clock, and like it had so many fine-tuned gears and everything. And
Oh
it was
yeah,
made,
no, yeah, I do know that. I do know that.
Okay.
And they just
order
recently figured it all out.
Right. And
Yeah.
in order to make something like that exist, you would have to understand binary code.
To create something, or
To
did you say to understand that it
to make
exists?
something that works on a mathematical, because that was a computer. I mean, that was a mechanical computer, so you have
Right.
to understand binary at some level to make this, to know how many gears you need to make this spin to this level to be able to count seconds, hours, and the rotation of the fucking stars and shit. Like that's got to be on point, and the only way you can simulate it would be with a computer, and the only way you can use a computer is with binary code.
I mean,
Whether it's a mechanical computer or an electronic, it's the same thing. Only instead of grinding gears, we're just launching a certain number of electrons through a circuit board, every time.
I'd have to disagree with that. I don't know much about mathematics or physics or anything like that, so my opinion's very small, but I think with mathematics back in the day, they could just figure out how much the rotation is. The rotation's, say, 6 seconds for this gear. Then they just time that out. They figure out the equation to figure out all of the sizes. This one has a circumference of this. Got to time it the exact much as this smaller gear. And I think if they work out the mathematics to
How
it,
would
they
they
don't need a
time it,
computer
though?
to do it.
How would they time anything like that without some sort of pre-established thing that is
I guess you could
is
probably
repeatable?
just look at it.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
that's
when
gonna
it comes to
that's gonna be
gears,
imprecise. So,
but-
they tracked
Let's not get too far caught up in that
Device.
essentially the first watch.
or the first computer.
Or the first computer. I mean, that's essentially what they think it is
Yeah.
the world's
It's very
first
possible,
computer. But when was that? When was that from?
Probably even before that. I don't know. Nobody really knows how long ago it was because it was found buried in rock and shit.
Well, that's just crazy though. You think that like I said, binary code invented so long ago, and then just 40 years, we had Pong, just like Elon Musk was saying. A couple rectangles on a screen with a square.
Yeah.
And then here we are, 40 years later, living in simulated worlds.
Yeah.
And now we got VR, and it's just we're just closer and closer and closer. We're gonna start bridging that gap. Now, just based on the silly shit you heard and what we said, what are the chances, do you think, that this would all actually just be simulated?
I would have to give it. I'm definitely devil's advocate to it because from what I hear you guys saying, you probably think it is. I would give it 2% chance we are living in a simulation. I think
2%?
it's
Now, if
majority.
you're going by milk fat percentages, that's huge.
It is.
That's a large percentage.
It's a
Still
lot of-
considered milk.
Still.
Um,
But yeah, very low percentage, I would say.
low percentage, right?
I would say that it's very, very high percentage. And I think it's a little bit different than that. I think it's more complicated than that, but I think it's 100%. But it's more complicated than just being a simulation.
His relationships, it's complicated.
Well, I think what I'm saying is even though there are rules
Simulation
to the
status.
game in a simulation,
Yeah.
you can also as an individual affect outcomes within the simulation for somebody on the other side of the world who's living in the simulation. So I think there's only certain confines to the simulation, but you have your own creative ability within the simulation to actually change the change the code, if you will.
do it, yeah.
You know.
I didn't even think of the possibility of the simulation actually being like
A living organism?
no, like a
Run
a
your own
program that actually has events like
scheduled in it.
yeah, rather than it just be like here's a procedurally generated world and whatever happens with the free will people happens, instead of like you're kind of saying like maybe they programmed like 9/11 into the simulation was actually a part of it. Not that in particular, but just saying there's programmed aspects of
I think of it
the
like
simulation itself.
like, all right, I guess I'll look at it like this. Like for Skyrim's a good example of the video game. So you can get base Skyrim and everybody can play the game. You know, at the same time, everybody can go have the same exact Skyrim experience. But people also have mods, and they install mods, and it changes the code of the entire game. You know what I mean? So I think just like we were born into this world with the base game, and we have the ability to create our own mods for it. And everybody has a different ability to make different mods, basically. And then however you mod it is whatever your reality is, because we all have different realities already.
Yeah.
Brian, what do you think as far as the possibility?
I think we are, but that's besides the point.
Percentage.
Percentage?
Get percentage.
Milk fat.
Milk fat. Skim.
Well,
that vitamin D
before I actually give an answer to that question, I want to
No.
also
Fucking
talk
refusing
about.
to answer the question.
What are you, a communist?
Mr. Tyson was actually on
Tyson chicken.
That's interesting.
Larry King Now. If you guys have ever watched that, pretty much he just asked him a single question. He asked him the same question, and he not a direct quote. This is paraphrasing, of course, but he said something along the lines of the chances of us. Well, he cannot necessarily disprove it, and he's finding it harder and harder and more difficult to actually prove it one way or the other, because the idea of an advanced civilization creating a world or a universe with its own set of rules, that all these different individuals have their own version of free will. Eventually someone is going to create another universe, because eventually we're going to program something that can, like the people inside of that universe, if we keep going, we're either going to kill ourselves or get to this point. If we keep going, we're going to eventually create a computer program that is in fact a universe inside of itself. I mean, that's just inevitable. We have all these NPCs that essentially live their own daily routines. It's just a matter of time before they can think and do stuff of their own, and then it's just a matter of time before those individual NPCs, which, if you, for lack of a better way to put it, that we're going to call them that, these NPCs will eventually create a computer of their own. And then once they do create that computer, then they'll create Pong, and then they'll create Sims, and then they'll move on to next level graphics like we've got. And eventually they'll create their own smaller universe inside of that smaller universe.
And who knows?
And then if you just keep going down that road,
Well,
we could be.
It depends on
the chances of us being the original universe is so small
Insanely slim.
in this scenario that, like,
Well, I would say that life is so complex that it probably isn't even the case.
Elon Musk put it,
We got computers and shit. It's amazing.
I think it's
one
simpler
in billions
complex.
chance that we are the original. And
You guys,
he's pretty smart,
I know
so I'm gonna
you've
go with
seen
that.
it, but like that episode of Rick and Morty where he creates the
Microverse?
the microverse to run his fucking car, and then they start off.
It's one of my favorite
fine,
episodes.
And then eventually that guy makes
That
the-
guy makes
Yeah.
another
a
universe.
mini-verse, and then that guy makes
Yeah.
a teeny verse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just keeps on going. Rabbit hole.
That is such a fantastic concept, because man, wouldn't that be so convenient just to be like, if we weren't a simulation as much as we were just like a tessellated void, where we were just here like delivering power to someone's cell phone in another universe, just like everything we're doing is generating energy for some alien's iPhone.
Here's another interesting concept that could be. We also could be not a computer, well, I guess a computer simulation, but we could be just a program designed to run to test the I don't know, the parameters of space and seeing what if we can change them, what it would do.
Like
And
the
we
beta,
could totally just be an accident inside of that experiment.
like beta testers of reality.
Yeah, because
kind of.
well, essentially.
Stop breaking my reality.
But if the universe is that big, let's say you guys created your own universe on your computer, you wouldn't be able to see every part of it. So the chances of our creator, or whatever you want to call the player, whoever's running the program,
We'll call him God for this scenario.
no.
It would probably
Let's
be
call
us,
him. Let's
right?
call him Steve. He's probably a 14-year-old kid that lives in his parents' basement still. Yeah, and just I don't know,
Who created his universe?
Joe,
And his?
Nancy,
And hers? Or his?
Steve
It's
as well.
2018.
Steve as well.
It was Pete.
No relation.
So a couple things I wanted to bring up. You know, obviously we were talking about the Matrix, and that's pretty much exactly what we're talking about,
Yeah,
right?
same concept.
So the chances of, like, let's say we were in a simulation.
To
What
back
would-
up just for a second,
Yeah.
just to clarify between this and the Matrix, the idea of the Matrix is that we do have an actual body outside of the reality.
Yes.
And from what I understood, we were just talking about the fact that, like, we don't have a physical body.
We're just in the simulation.
Yes, sure. Yeah.
So,
But go ahead.
yeah, that's the idea. There's like not another scenario, but who's to say there wouldn't be?
Me.
Another body you're attached to, like we're all plugged in something, and it'd be like, oh, we're in a simulation. But it would be unlikely that simulation would run all the time so good and not like somehow get a fatal error at some point.
Maybe that's why
or
everybody has
overload
to
the RAM.
sleep. You know,
That's
people,
exactly what I was getting at.
yeah,
You could easily reboot the system.
like half the world reboot at a time.
Yeah.
Break
That's
it
the
down
whole
into
reason for
regions.
time zones. The only reason they do that is to reprogram the
So
world.
essentially what I was getting back
So
to
we
to
don't
go
have
to the
to experience
Matrix
buffering.
is if it was like that in both scenarios, right now to backwards and a right now to forwards, if you found out you were in a simulation and you could unplug, but it was some fucked up world like where the robots, like literally just like the Matrix, where like humans had to live underground and it was shitty and you ate shitty porridge and had shitty clothes and never got to see the sun or play Xbox,
The woman in red.
would you decide to live in that real world or would you not?
So would you take
Well-
the blue or the red pill?
No, because I also want to go the other way, and if you found out there was a
Yes.
simulation you could go into from this world, and it was like, you could live whatever life you wanted, you would be eating that steak, you could taste it, you would know it was fake, but would that matter to you?
So it's still the blue or red pill.
No, I want to. Essentially, this would be not taking either of the pills. This would be getting to the point of deciding which one you want to take and being like, you know what? I'm going to stay here and keep the knowledge that I have now.
Yeah,
I can
but
then fly. I can do whatever I want to do
At-
with my Matrix level abilities, but I don't have to succumb
lose
to the
the-
real world.
Only Neo has those
You
abilities.
don't
Not
go
you.
in forgetting that you're in a you just go in like, oh, you don't know, you don't lose the knowledge, so like you would go in and you would know this is all fucking fake,
well, what if you?
but you'd
Could-
be living whatever life you wanted.
Well, it's essentially either of those could be simulations too. When you go either way, and you're like, "This is a shitty world. All right, I'm gonna find the simulation that made this world and go into that one," and you could dig either way.
But I'm
By the
saying,
same
which
thing,
one
right?
would you go to? Or if, like I said, if let's say would you back out of this life to go to like a shittier life, but real, nothing was simulated? Again, you'd never know, but if they just discovered right now, breaking news, we're in a simulation, go down to fucking Costco to get out. Are you going to Costco to get out of the simulation?
No, because so many people are leaving that the simulation's gonna be sweet once they're gone.
What about you?
I think it depends on what we find out about the not simulation. If we can get any information about what is actually on the
Well,
other
if it's
side.
shitty, let's just say it's shitty.
If it's shitty,
If
like
it's shitty, but
knowingly
it's-
shitty,
The best
Probably
thing you
not.
could know is reality. You wouldn't be
Probably not,
bothered
'cause-
the fact that like you're sitting in traffic in this simulation.
Do the
And
people
you're
who
just
get
like-
out have the option of coming back in?
I don't know.
Plugging back in, so to speak, like they do in the Matrix?
I do not know.
Why is
I
it
haven't
limited
been
by
yet.
two realities on the outsides? Why is there only the two realities?
Well, it's just shooting
in
the
this
shit.
instance,
yeah, just
yeah.
shooting
Okay,
the shit.
gotcha,
Like,
gotcha.
would you make that decision? I'm just curious both ways. I mean, I guess for me personally, I don't feel like if they were just like, yeah, it's bad. Like we're all living underground. Sucks. It's warm. We're by the core. People are sweaty and it stinks. We haven't had deodorant for fucking 150 years.
But
We
we
haven't
have
had-
awesome raves.
We do have awesome raves. We get high off cave stink, and we rave out. It's tough. I feel like I'd probably stay, but I feel like
If I had the ability to do either of those things, I would really probably try to set up just like another Rick and Morty thing, but go back and like set up the Citadel of infinite rays, and
Yeah,
experience
it's
all
terrifying.
of them, simultaneously.
I think I would the shittier version that you can like unplug and go to. I think that's this reality, the shitty one already, and I'm gonna go into a better one because if this is the simulated good reality, then they're fucking up
yeah.
big time.
I don't
You
know.
fucked up,
I
bud.
don't know if they're fucking up.
I guess it depends how shitty the.
It's actually
reality
kind
I
of-
mean, let's be honest. If you sat there and played The Sims, let's say you put like 10 years into a single game of Sims, and eventually you found peace and harmony among the worlds, what would be the first thing you would do? I guarantee you would
Like,
probably
this is
like land a
boring as
meteor
shit.
or like
volcano.
something. You would
It's a
spark.
volcano.
Yeah.
And there's
Oh,
the
it's
other
a
thing.
global
Just
war or
watching
something.
everyone just
Exactly.
enjoy their lives.
Exactly.
Like, this is fucking boring.
The other thing to think about is like how many billions of years, or it doesn't even matter, how many generations of humans ago, like that we've been able to live on this planet, sustain life on this planet, and like even have the ability to have life, to experience life at all, like because we're just like a dust of nothing floating in the vastness of space, and that's what we can see with our own telescopes. Like
For sure.
the fact that even can exist can't be the worst it could be, because go try to live on Neptune.
I will.
If I didn't have the option of taking, or if I had the option of taking either the red pill or the blue pill, and
I kind of forget which one's which.
Take both. Overdose.
I'm pretty sure the blue pill was forget everything and stay.
Yeah, and then the red pill was stay ignorant and
Yeah.
enjoy the Matrix.
No. Pretty sure the blue pill was
Red pill
stay
let you
ignorant.
let you out of the Matrix.
Yeah.
Now, what if the simulation was an intentional simulation we put ourselves into that would split up your consciousness into 4 billion separate streams of consciousness so you could experience every
Everybody's
experience, and technically we'd all be the same consciousness. And then when you get out of this simulation, you've then experienced every right and wrong decision everyone has ever made, and you understand both sides of every decision and just fully understand
Well,
right and
at
wrong
that level,
and
it's
humanity
every
and-
decision that you have made.
right.
not even everyone,
So
like
every
you.
every bad and good thing you've ever done, you were on both ends of it.
So existence is for the sake of existence and getting to know oneself.
Maybe.
Different expressions of
Maybe.
oneself.
Do you think that if there's, in this scenario anyways, do you think that if there's multiple people who decided to split their consciousness into however many people, do you think that person and the other person that decided to do that as well would get the same message out of it?
I think probably eventually. Like you throw, a couple humans on a planet. I think at the end of 20,000 years, it's pretty much going to be the same every time. Death and destruction to everybody.
Well, I'm not saying like the same situation in the simulated reality. I'm thinking like, will that affect each person's mind on the actual real end differently? Do you think that they would both come out of it super zen? Because like,
I would imagine.
what is good or bad? Good or bad is everything. I'm both. I'm nothing. I'm the walrus, kind of thing.
If you could get conscious in the simulation of the simulation, and then just be like, fuck this, everyone's evil, I'm everybody, and just, instead of like it coming to that thing, like it just fucking 20,000 years of just hate, and I guess that's exactly what it is now.
Yeah, I was gonna say like
That's exactly
this
what's
sounds
happening
familiar. Adolf Hitler.
What's your percentage? It's bugging me.
What's your milk fat percentage, bitch?
We're gonna go with 0.0001% chance that we are not living in a simulation.
You guys are crazy.
Now, it seems very unlikely in my head that we are living in a simulation. But I don't know how many
But in your
people,
heart, it's different.
how many people that I know are light years ahead of me as far as knowledge goes, that are just like, that's all we can think. That's the only thing that makes sense. We have walls full of equations, and we're in a simulation. I don't know how many times that can happen before I just go, these guys are way smarter than me.
Well,
Way smarter than me.
even everything humans do is just simulating a piece of nature and putting our own DNA on it. You know what I mean? Like, from the whole progress from caveman to exactly, yes.
Jerking off on plants over here.
I'm gonna
DNA.
flip this around real quick for you guys.
Oh, Funko!
We were just talking about fractals in nature, and it's just a
Yeah.
list of reasons, proof that we're in a simulation. Some of those are super interesting. But if we scroll down here, if you're a big fan of our Instagram page, you'll notice this familiar image down here that I had posted. I just discovered this just now, but I had posted this on Instagram and then replaced one of the circles with our logo. Coincidence? Or just simulation?
It's coincidence.
Probably. I mean, I guess if we were living in the simulation, would any of it be a coincidence? Or would all of it be a coincidence?
Well, if it's a simulation, then none of it's a coincidence because everything's got a program script.
I think that depends on whether or not the computers running the program are powerful enough to give each individual entity free will. So, I mean, if
Well, what does that even
legitimately
mean?
free will, then you have the option of doing whatever you decide to do at any given moment.
Well, you don't, though. You still are bound by the confines of, like, if we have free will, if that's what we're going to call it, like, I can't, like, cut my hand off and, like, let it walk across the table.
No,
and
but you could
bring it
cut your
back.
hand off.
Right, but I don't have the free will to reprogram reality, make that a thing that can happen.
Because you're not a computer. You're a program living in a computer. You still have to follow the confines of the rules, but you can follow your own journey, so to speak.
Or we're just
inside that rule.
bacteria on a rock flying through space, and it's not advanced at all, and we're just really dumb.
Also a possibility, human beings being a virus, for sure.
Sure seems that way.
Yeah, I mean, all
I
we do
mean,
is
I definitely,
consume,
when you were talking
reproduce,
about
consume, reproduce.
when Rob was saying how we're all like a collective consciousness in that scenario, like I think that's already a thing. Like, 'cause, I mean, everybody's affected. Like, if I'm in a bad mood near Rob, and like just for that long, like, you know, that energy is basically onto him. He's gonna feel like shit, and I think that way, like, we're kind of connected already somehow. Whether it's like
All is one.
ants or whether it's a collective consciousness, probably not, because obviously you're not thinking what I'm thinking. And
It's actually on
Maybe.
this list.
Maybe.
Just a few things down now that you're talking about it. But number 6 is one of the reasons, one of the 9 signs that we are indeed awakening in a simulation. Number 6, telepathy. All minds are one. This can only be verified through telepathic awareness. We all have moments of telepathy. Although we could have easily dismissed this, we have reached each other mentally to know who is about to call, what is about to be said to us, and even give a message to someone through our mind or heart communication instead of through letters or internet.
So let's go around the table. Do you think that what you just said holds any weight? Do you think that's true?
I think we already
Is it
talked
telepathy, or is it like, I just know
You're
what
just hoping he
I
says
just-
something different from he said in the
That's what
episode.
I'm fucking crossing
it's
my
like, is
fingers
it
for.
telepathy, or is it just like, I know how music works and now the bridge is coming up?
Here's another like really
Verbatim.
like different thought, I guess, about it.
It's like having your heart drop, knowing to call your mom when she goes to the hospital, kind of thing.
Yeah, but what if it's
Because
just
that
something
kind of
that
thing
we
happens all the
can't
time.
currently, like, we just call it telepathy, just like for you know what I mean, that's a word we come up to explain this unknown thing, but maybe there are like physical vibrations that are going
Sure.
on all the time that we have no access to with our terrible eyes and our senses are
But, like,
very
there's
fucking limited. Like,
That calcified, like, pineal gland
But regardless
is like
of
a
that,
antenna to pick up those vibrations, but you're just not super in tune with it.
well, it just happens. Maybe that's what that telepathy is, when you're actually picking up on those things, and those physical things are bouncing around in reality, and they're touching each other always. You know, and there was also a study done, I don't know if you guys ever heard about this, where like there was this group meditation. I can't remember how many people got together. It was like meditation and for world peace, and it was millions of people got together and did it. I believe millions of people. I'm not sure on the exact number, but it actually dropped the world crime rate for the day. And
Because everybody was there.
no, it wasn't that much of the world population to do that, but it was enough to actually.
I think it was on a much smaller scale than that. Actually, I think it was like 1,000 people in New York City, and they tried to like meditate and think good thoughts to try to reduce the crime percent by 5 or 10%, and they did. And I'm pretty sure that was a story from the movie The Secret.
I would also want to see like this case study behind it, because if it's like in this group of people, if the percentage went down with just those people.
No,
like,
it was a worldwide percentage that went down. For sure, that I do remember.
Like, I want to see who did the report
It
on
was-
it for
it
sure,
was
because
like-
nobody's going to know that exact
It was
number.
violent crimes in particular they were trying to reduce, and like they did, but who's to say it wasn't because
That just
something
happened on
else-
that day.
something else completely. But
Right.
mind over matter, I guess, is what we're talking about there, and
Yeah.
how effective is it?
Yeah, it can
sometimes it
affect
seems
outcomes.
pretty fucking effective. And sometimes it's like you can't even move, a round ball sitting on a flat surface, which seems like it'd be the easiest thing to possibly like move with your mind, but sometimes you can be like, oh, I hope this bitch trips, and she does, and you're just like, oh, I did that.
Stereo there. That was weird.
Yeah. You got something there?
No, I was just gonna go into telekinesis there for a while, but I don't think that's really the topic.
No, we can cover that. What is your percentage, though? We
Next
haven't
week.
rounded back to you.
Stay tuned
Well,
for telekinesis.
I guess mine would be like kind of 50-50, because like
50-50.
in my head it feels like
Yeah,
just like it can't be, like it just can't be, but
It's like all of us
Everyone
little
that's-
commoners not believing the Earth was round until a bunch of smart people told us that it was. And
right, yeah, or even flat,
thing,
flat for that matter when it first started.
So back to that study
Isn't that what I
just real
said?
quick.
You know what I mean?
It was actually one of them was conducted in the 1980s. There's 1,000 people in Jerusalem meditated on world peace, and war deaths in Lebanon went down by over 75%. Not only did the deaths go down, but crime, traffic collisions, fires, and other destructive events also went down on the days the group meditated.
it's from a .org website. I don't trust .orgs.
That's interesting, because I mean, if that was somehow provable, then
Everybody
Damn.
meditate in the morning. Just
well, I
make
mean, I
it
guess
easy.
if like they found that out 1800 in the year 1800, boy, that would explain a lot to why we're at today.
Well, no, and I think a lot of it has to do with just belief in making something happen too, because like
Mind over matter.
mind over matter, like it's almost like that is what your ability to install mods is the mind over matter thing. And so like the Wright brothers, everybody was like, flying's impossible. Like, no, we really think we can do it, and they fucking did it. And how many thousands like it wasn't like they invented wings or fucking wheels. This shit's all been, everything they used pretty much had been around,
I tell you what, if
Still
I was
crazy
playing
to
a
think
game
about.
that was an ultimate simulation game and like millions of people got together to fucking meditate on one day to reduce the crime rate, I would fucking do it just to fuck with them. Be like, everybody
Either
take the
that or
day
be
off from
like-
crime. Today's there's no crime, and everybody's gonna believe this works. So fuck y'all.
Meanwhile, I'm gonna litter some dinosaurs in here. This will keep them thinking for
Insert
years.
T-Rex.
Well, I don't know if it's gonna be like a drag and drop, like a roller coaster tycoon. I think it's gonna be more like of a
drag and drop, like off the top rope. That kind of drag and drop.
but a like a slow like castle builder or like a city builder kind of thing. Like you have to just essentially I would like the pyramids here. You guys figure out how to do them, and if you guys don't do them, I will get somebody who will, and then I'll just force some slaves to do this work. Because like I don't know about you guys, but if I was like doing a simulation, the first thing that I would probably build if it was like super barbaric times and I didn't have the tech yet would be a gigantic fucking pyramid.
I would build a trapezoid.
I don't know. That pyramid's going to stand the test of time.
So will my trapezoid.
So have you
Built
guys seen
from
that
steel
Wind
and
resistance.
new theory about the
Erosion.
pyramids and how they're actually much, much, much older?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's a little interesting there, but
That's deep.
I don't know if
for
it's
sure.
necessarily a new theory, but
it's fairly new. Like within the last, like instead of being like a couple thousand years old, it's like 40,000 years old.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've thought that about the Sphinx for a long time. People have speculated that since like the 80s.
it used to be
That the
the
Sphinx was older than that, just
yeah,
because of the water
not
erosion.
an original Sphinx as well.
Yeah, like
It was
wasn't
originally just a cat or the god. I can't think of the actual thing.
or even like some people
Anubis.
speculated it was like
Yeah.
a lion looking towards the constellation of Leo
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Interesting.
I thought it was Jeff, but
Jeff.
that's just me. Now, do you guys know what the double slit experiment is?
Yes.
That is a fantastic experiment, Ryan.
No.
So it was essentially they would blast electrons through a slit at first, just one slit,
firing like one electron at a time.
one electron at a time, and they would look at it, and it would behave exactly like they would expect it to behave. Some would go through, some would not go through, and then
It created like a line
beyond
on
the
the
slit,
back wall.
beyond the slit, it would create an like a line that you would expect all the particles of,
Just
they're all
as if
there.
someone was shooting like a
Yeah.
gun, like rapid fire, you'd see the
Yeah.
bullets in a line behind the slit.
Right. So then what they did was like, okay, we have that. Let's let it run, and we'll come back and we'll read the results. But when they came back, what they got was like
A wave
like a
pattern.
Well, first off, they added a second slit, hence the double slit experience. So
Well, I thought that came next. But yeah, eventually there was essentially two slits, which really fucked shit up because it gave another option. So instead of either going through or not going through, it could either go through or not go through, or go through both, or just go through one. So the weird thing was essentially they discovered the matter behaved differently because it was being observed. So when they actually
Right, because it started the wave, the
interference
pattern first, and they were trying to figure out why that was. So then they
Because-
started recording which slit it was going through to try to figure out why it was creating this wave pattern.
Right.
And then when they recorded it, like
it didn't do it anymore.
it started doing
Two
as
lines.
If it was two lines, as if it was physical objects all over again.
So it was pretty much acting as a sound wave when nothing was recording it or looking at it. So they figured out that matter actually behaves much, much differently when it's being observed.
And that brings us back to this point of this whole big thing being a computer, and because nobody's looking at it, my upstairs isn't rendering it in right now.
Technically,
Nobody's
it's-
there. It doesn't exist.
It's infinite possibilities up there.
Yeah.
But as soon as you gaze upon it, it collapses into one function, which is his living room as he knows it. But when you start thinking about what that really means, and you start thinking like we're all made of matter, everything is made of matter, everything's protons, electrons popping in and out of existence at the quark level. You start thinking about that, and it really just makes you think like everything is matter, just vibrating at different frequencies, which just seems like a simulation. Like the more you think about it, it's just like, well, like how would you create a simulation? You have to create some sort of manipulatable particle that you could it would all have to be the same thing, but it would be different things based on the vibrations it was putting out or receiving, or however that works. But it just seems like, this paper's made of the same thing as this table, as this pen, as your skin, as your face, as your breath. It's all fucking made out of the same shit. And it very much seems like how it would be in a simulation. Yeah. You look at a game like GTA 5. It took 5 years to make. It's a fucking self-sustained world in there. And it's like you can fucking watch a bird fly by, you can watch leaves fucking blow, you watch a bag roll down the fucking street, you can watch people get arrested, and like that took 5 years of some really dumb fucking people. And they made that. So, I mean, imagine what you could do with 10,000 years and a universe of the smartest people in the multiverse. It'd be easy.
No.
Yes.
But I mean, I just thought, you know, it's just interesting. And then there's just like the fucking, how much wackadoo shit you see on a daily basis, and you're just looking around like, is anyone else seeing this fucking shit? Like, we got this fucking, like, the people in charge of running this fucking planet.
That's a close one, huh?
It seems so fucking strange, and everything seems backwards. It's just like, how can any of this be real?
I think
I
it
just
just
stab
is.
myself in the fucking face
Right
with this
now.
pencil. I was like, it's not
This
real.
isn't real.
And,
It's
and
not
not
real,
to go
guys.
back to
It's
Rick
just a
and Morty
simulation of
again,
you
but like
stabbing
that
yourself.
was when they finally got all the way in. The engineer from like the Teenyverse just blew himself away.
Yeah, he found out, and he just literally committed suicide immediately.
Yeah, it's all a lie.
Yeah, and then it's like one of those things. We bring it back to Rick and Morty, where it's just like, what about this universe, and what about this universe? And Rick's just like, yeah, what about the universe where Hitler cured cancer? It's almost not worth thinking about.
Nothing's 100% for sure.
Except 100% pure Florida orange juice. Our sponsors this week.
Also
Along
brought
with-
to you by Breedlove and Reverb.
And
low-fat
Loaf.
skim milk from True Milk.
And 2%.
And
so, I mean,
Gandhi. Brought to you by Gandhi.
we got our percentages. It's up in the air. Would you be upset if you found out this is a simulation?
Depends whether or not I could get out of the simulation and still survive outside of the simulation.
Like,
If
we're
I
all just
literally exist
NPCs.
only in this simulation, what the fuck's it matter? This is all I'm gonna ever know anyways, so it's my real.
My real. Now, if you did find out it was at a simulation and everyone was just NPCs, like, in your simulation, we're technically just NPCs,
Right.
and everyone's just NPCs. You're the only, like, real part of that simulation, and you found that out. What's your next move?
This NPC is gonna
Something
punch
I'm
you in
not
the
gonna
face.
say while being
pillage.
recorded.
Rape and pillage.
No, it would be.
That was telepathy, me reading his mind, by the way.
I think it was my mind you heard. I'm just saying.
No,
That was yours.
I would just install more mods at
No
that point.
ringtone for
I'd be like, okay, well, then this really changes
Yeah, for sure.
how I could play the game. Because if it's simulation, it's a game, and then that
And you
really,
could just literally upload, like, Kung Fu.
I wouldn't even have to do that. I would just be
No.
like,
Without
You
getting
have
too
to do
far,
that.
without getting
Sure.
too far off topic, how realistically, how far away are we before we start blending robot and human, and we are able to upload shit to our fucking brain, and we just go, I know that now.
More serious question: who would fuck a robot?
no, let's go back for just 1 second. We gotta go
Hello?
back. We gotta go back.
Gotta go back.
Bob Barker is a black belt, and he was trained by Chuck Norris. Okay, we can continue now. Just wanted to get that off my chest.
No.
What simulation was that in? That didn't happen in mine.
That's real life, man. Or
Never
maybe.
mind.
I don't know. Anyways,
We're running different simulations.
This is gonna get the lowest
Um,
views ever. Somebody's gonna tune out 10 minutes in. Fuck this.
Yeah,
Doubt
it's
it.
not a simulation. But what the fuck?
We're exposing
I was
this.
just talking about. I hit all my talking points here.
he said who would fuck a robot.
Oh, like how far
It's the most
away?
important part.
Like
No.
not only just uploading shit, but just like the cybernetic eye. Now it's just like I can fucking zoom in with my eye 3 miles, and now I can make my fucking legs run forever. They never get tired because I have cybernetic implants. Like I feel like we're within
I
our
think-
lifetime.
I think this
we are going to see this.
This is what's going to happen. Is I believe you that statement's true. Probably that within our lifetime we're going to see that, and then we're going to achieve those things, and we're going to start making it happen. And then we're going to realize that the computer code that we're using to make that happen already exists with us without any of the hardware. And then we're going to start doing crazy shit without.
We can write our own code.
Yeah, like and if that's true, that would be like the story of Jesus walking on the water. Maybe that's exactly what was going on. And he was just literally writing his own code at that point in time. He was literally trying to tell everybody, like, you guys, like, if you believe it, you can do it. Just get out here.
It's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. I'm just kidding.
I mean, if it's a simulation,
probably more
it
of
makes a
just-
lot of sense.
I
Good
don't
at
think-
sleight of hand.
It could have been that too. Who knows?
Mind freak.
Who knows?
Mind freak. Are you ready?
Oh, you fucking cocksucker. Not talking to you. I was talking to Chris Angel.
We hope you're watching this right now, Chris. Fuck you.
I think that's a pretty solid episode.
I think that's pretty solid. Yes, I'll just come down to the library.
50 minutes or so.
We're sitting at 50 minutes.
So, thank
Or
you for
so.
joining us this week on the Illegal Podcast.
Put in the comments if you think you're living in a simulation right now and what
Yeah.
you would do if you were.
If you're living in my simulation, what would you do?
I would jump off a bridge.
Not exist until you're around, probably.
I'd probably
Said
have
to leave
longer
it in the
hair.
comments, guys. God, you fucking assholes.
That's our comments. I'm writing it right now.
And
Simulated
Ryan's
it.
computer just simulatedly broke.
No, that was a computer glitch right there for sure.
Again, sorry for not getting you one last week. I do apologize. It was
I do not.
not my fault.
Definitely don't even know whose fault it was. Either.
But hit that
Go ahead
like
and write in
button
the
if you liked
comments.
it. Hit that dislike button if you didn't like Ray, and hit that bell. Is the bell on?
Is the bell on?
Think
Put your-
outside the bun.
Mmm.
I
Burrito.
love you guys. Fuck. This is just stop the video.
Snappy
do
dappy
something
fuckers,
else.
we're taking off.
Do something else.